as we move into the fourth quarter of the year of 2023 in boxing. The sport continues its tremendous output of quality matchups. This October, we are going to see more of the same as we prepare ourselves for another showdown this coming Saturday, October 7th, when Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez takes on Joe Smith Jr. These two fighters have had their share of ups and downs in the sport, and this coming Saturday, when they face off against one another, it will be no different. Let's talk a little bit further about Ramirez versus Smith Jr. Coming up Saturday, October 7th, we are once again going to be treated to a very much a quality matchup as Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez takes on Joe Smith Jr. These two men are slated to face off, and this is going to be 12 rounds in the light heavyweight division. The two men represent something typical of the sport of boxing, and the similarities are shocking when you think about it. We've got a southpaw in Ramirez taking on an orthodox fighter in Joe Smith Jr. Joe Smith Jr. is a fighter who is 6 foot tall with a 76-inch reach, and Ramirez, tall for the typical Mexican fighter, is 6'2.5" with a 75-inch reach. They are 2 years apart in age, with Smith being the elder at 34. Now, the contrast of their styles, meaning both men, though be seek and destroy type individuals, they go about their business differently. Ramirez had a situation where his most recent outing against Dmitry Bivol in November of 2022 saw him drop a unanimous decision in a fight where he had vowed to get revenge for Canelo Alvarez, who had also that year, 2022, dropped a decision to Bivol. Bivol has turned out to be more the fighter and champion than anyone would have guessed. So coming back against a tough fighter in Joe Smith Jr., though he has 4 losses on his record, Smith is the type of fighter who has been in with high caliber opposition himself. he even faced Dmitry Bivol, and that was in March of 2019, where he lost a 12-round decision unanimously. He also has a loss to Sullivan Barrera on his record, along with Artur Beterbiev, who stopped him in February of 2020. Stopped him in June of 2022. But the thing about it is, Joe Smith is the type of guy who has pulled victories out against opposition that people didn't expect him to win against. His split decision victory over Jesse Hart, another victory over Bernard Hopkins, Hall of Famer, where he stopped Hopkins in the 8th round, knocking him out of the ring. He has a TKO first round victory over Fonfara. He has been in there against fighters who will test him, give him rounds, and he has fared very well, with the exception of his second round blitz loss to Artur Beterbiev, because Beterbiev is the type of fighter that most guys don't want to enter the ring against. Now, Ramirez, on the other hand, his single loss being to Bivol, he has taken on the likes of Sullivan Barrera himself, where he scored a 4th round KO over Barrera, and that was in July of 2021. But fights against Bivol and Barrera seemed to be his stiffest opposition, because even when he took on Arthur Abraham in May of 2016, though he had a unanimous decision victory in that, it still wasn't anything that made anyone take special note. It's amazing that he was fighting at 168 pounds, because when you see him when he's not fighting, this gentleman is clearly 200 pounds plus. So the fact that he's going to trim down again for the likes against Smith Jr. means that not only is he making the sacrifice to make the weight, but he's got to prove himself and come back after his loss. Now, where will that leave the fans? You need to be very excited about what you're going to see, because this fight, I'm sure, is not going to lack action. There's going to be a lot of things going on here where each man tries to prove himself against the other. Now, take Ramirez, for example, who record is 44-1, 30 KOs. At light heavyweight, he seems to be sturdier, but the power is not necessarily there. And he had trouble with Dmitry Bivol. Bivol is not the hardest punching light heavyweight, and Ramirez had trouble against Bivol's power. Joe Smith Jr. is a very strong light heavyweight, and he's the type of fighter that picks up his strength as the fight wears on. So as this fight gets into the middle to late rounds, I expect the combatants to be able to impose a show of wills as they face one another. And I think that's where Smith very well may come out on top, because Smith is not the type of guy that's just going to fold up his tent just because you hit him hard. Ramirez seems to have difficulty when his bullying tactics aren't working. When you stand up to him and you punch him back in the mouth, he doesn't seem to take that very well. So when we think about Smith and what can happen here, listen, his record, like I said, 28-4 with 22 KOs, is showing us something about him that many people seem to overlook at times. And that's simply the fact that he's going to give his all, whether you are a more athletic fighter than he, skillful fighter than he's going to show you that he's going to give his all. When he stopped Bernard Hopkins, he fought Hopkins with no respect. He took the fight to B-Hop and managed to bully him around. So I think Ramirez has to watch out for that in this instance. Smith is going to be coming at him the same way. Don't forget, he ran in there against Artur Beterbiev with no fear. Or maybe it was because he was afraid that if he let Artur get going, he may not be able to measure up. But Artur was ready to turn back whatever he brought and stopped him in two. But Ramirez is a different person, and I don't believe he's the sharpest knife in the drawer. So Smith is going to have opportunity. It's just a matter of if his age and the wear and tear rigors of boxing are taking over for him. This would be a solid victory if he's able to turn back Ramirez. And for Ramirez, who's known to have had a few issues outside of the ring, discipline-wise, sometimes when you have that, it's the precursor to other problems that will come in. So as I look at this fight, Ramirez being the headliner, as long as Smith is coming in motivated and hasn't given up on himself, it was a devastating and disheartening loss to Artur Beterbiev. But please understand that Zurdo Ramirez is no Beterbiev. I would like to see Smith win this fight. I believe he can win this fight. It's just a matter of he putting in the work. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what your thoughts are about these two big light heavyweights, Southpaw and Orthodox. A typical matchup for typical men of the ring. It's going to be a great opportunity for one man to be victorious. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone, please remain safe.